released. We have we had their monetary policy statement was also given. We had their rate statement also was given. That was around 3 a.m. in the morning. And I think official rate actually came out neutral. So you most likely will not be getting any, or you wouldn't be getting volatility on that instrument because it just like it wasn't what people was expecting. It wasn't below expectation, and it wasn't what people was expecting. It was just a neutral news. So most likely, what you will see on the chart is still a ranging market. So dependent on, I've not been able to go through what the news actually said, but we could get a quick peep. Right, if you do your drop down here, you could get a quick peep. So from 3 hours ago, they said fresh eye on monthly low below. So we could just, if you on Forex Factory, you could open this up to see what the statement or the policy was all about. You could see official rates set to remain restrictive. Okay, so a quick peep into what really happened this morning around 3 a.m. was that the official rate would remain strict, right? So there's still a tightening on their official monetary rate. So just doing a quick peep into what happened, we have Monetary Policy Committee today voted to raise their official cash rate, right? So they're raising it from 5.25% to 5.50%. Of course, I think this should actually send a little bit of positive sentiment on the NZD. And though we'll still dive into the chart, but I believe because of this sentiment, that should actually give the NZD a little bit of a boost against other currency pairs. So if you had paired it against other currency, it should have given a boost, and you should have bought that particular instrument at least. Yeah, you should have just bought that particular, because that's more of a little bit of an hawkish statement, right? Since they are looking at increasing their rate, it's an hawkish move. So that's just a quick peep, and that's how to get quick peep into just looking at, just to get the headline. Let me use that word, just to get the headline as to what the news actually said. So that was that on NZD. Then if since we weren't able to key into that for 3 a.m. and 4 a.m., that's the Reserve Bank of New Zealand press conference. Those ones, I think those moves would have started fading out by now. So we also missed out the move on GBP. That's the Great Britain CPI actually came out today. And we all know that consumer price index is one news that actually moves the market, regardless of whatever zone it's going to be coming out on, right? If it is the US CPI, you see a lot of traders scrambling to trade CPI. Always, I think it's always the second week here. CPI is always second week of the month here. So you see a lot of traders scrambling to trade CPI. But what people don't know is that you could, if you miss out on USD CPI, you could also trade GBP CPI. There's CAD CPI, right? There, so other zones or other economy have their own CPI data that you could actually leverage on, right? That you could leverage on, and it's something that a lot of people should actually start looking into trading also if you're a fundamental trader. So for 9 a.m. this morning, we have the German info business climate, which will be coming out by 9. Yeah, so that's what all be affecting the euro. The Eurozone. Euro on its own has not been doing so well, right? So I believe this news should actually give a little bit of a boost, especially if you're pairing the euro against the USD, right? You could see, if you had checked the chart or followed the chart through the whole week or from last week, you discover that steady decline in the price of euro USD, right? So I expect that if this news comes out, though it's not a high impact news, but at least it should give a little bit of a boost for euro for today. And then we also have news coming out on GBP by 10:30 a.m., which will be the Bank of England, the governor of the Bank of England, which is Bailey, will be speaking. So of course that should send, and it's a high impact news, so that should send positive sentiment down GBP, right? So you're looking at most likely pairing GBP among other peers, right? We're also looking at this in please. So you're also looking at by 2 p.m. you have GBP Bank also we also have Bailey will also be speaking. So I think he'll be speaking 2 times today. He'll be speaking by 10:30. He would also be speaking by 2 p.m. Right. So by 3:05 we have the U.S. Treasury Secretary will be speaking. So Yellen will be speaking by 3:05. And you see, if you notice, what is actually prominent about this news is that they are all statement, their speeches. So it's not like a data news where you just come and you're looking out for the fact that if it is positive or if it is negative, right? So you need to now actually follow the news, right? Most likely follow the news and get what these speakers are actually going to be talking about. And then you need to now decipher how it's actually going to affect the economy before you place your trade. But most times, most traders, what they do is they wait for the speech to start and then they follow the general market direction, right? Oh, can you all hear me? Thank you. Can you all hear me? If you can hear me, can I get a yes in the chat session? Okay, 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 okay. So was where did people miss me out, or where did you miss out? Did everybody hear me to the last point at which I stopped? Okay, let me just do a recap. Let me just do a recap of the last few statements I made. So I was saying most of the news coming out today are speech, and what you should actually do to take advantage of this is for you to follow up on the news, right? You need to follow up on the news, and following up on the news, you now need to now listen to the news and decipher what the speakers are actually saying and how it affects the economy. So that will now inform your decision on either to buy or either to sell, right? But what most traders actually do, if you don't have access to listen to the news, well, of course, if you're with your phone, you have access to actually listen to the news. You could just go on Twitter, you could go on Instagram. So some of these things are on Instagram Live or Twitter Live. You get YouTube. Just follow up on the news, get to hear what the speakers are saying, and then use that to decipher what will happen in that economy. All right. So I tell people what you actually view on a daily basis actually it determines your output, what you take in on a daily basis. So I, for one, I make it my own top priority to ensure that anything I'm taking in are informations that can actually bring in money. So on my Twitter, you see things like CNN pop up, Al Jazeera pop up, business info and all of that. So those are the things I see. Yeah, that's what the algorithm brings for me, because over time these are what have interested me and these are things I click my likes on. So over time my algorithm just keep bringing this information on a platter of gold, and you should try rerouting your algorithm. And it's not every day you watch funny skits, right? Those things they does make you happy, but they don't bring you money, right? So we look at by 3:05. Yes, I already said that. So by 7, which will be the last high impact news, we'll be having FOMC minutes, and it's also one news that actually drives a whole lot of volatility in the market, right? FOMC is one news that traders actually scrabble to trade, right? So that being said, so we're going to be looking at trading around the euro, the GBP, and most especially the USD, right? So GBP, we'll look at one trade from euro, since we're not expecting it's a medium impact news. We'll look at more trade from GBP, and of course further trade on the USD. So let's quickly go into our charts. Let's go to the MT4. Okay, so right, so on our MT4 here, all right, so let's go. So we'll be looking at euro. Let's look at 1 euro pair first. Just 1 euro pair. We'll look at 2 GBP pair. We'll look at one stock, and then if time permits, we might look at something else. But let's look at an euro pair first. So let me bring out my market watch. Take down this. Bring out my market watch. We'll bring out. So since we have news on euro and GBP, I would be pairing euro GBP. We have news on USD. I won't be pairing euro USD, right? I'm looking at news and a currency that has news coming out and one that doesn't have news coming out, because I believe at the point at which the news will come out, one will actually gain more boost than the other, either positive or negative boost. You understand? So it's better you're pairing an instrument that you're expecting fundamental against an instrument you're not really expecting any fundamental from. That would be the smartest thing to do. But if you're pairing instrument like this, GBP USD, for example, because you have the news coming out on GBP and you also have news coming out on USD, sentiments around the market will clash, because there'll be a conflict of interest. Some traders will stand in favor of the GBP, some traders will stand in favor of the USD, and then there'll be a clash of interest. So on such a chart, what you most likely be getting is a ranging market, right? And of course, a ranging market doesn't make you money. A clear direction market is what you're looking for as a profitable trader, right? So let's look at Euro JPY. Yeah, since we are not expecting any fundamental from JPY, right? Let's look at Euro JPY first as our first pair. All right. Okay. So Euro JPY, can you please load up? Load. Hmm. Okay, just give me a few minutes. I don't know why my chart is not loading up. Just give it a little bit of a refresh. Refresh. Okay. All right. So sorry about that. I don't know what was why the network actually slowed down my chat. So Euro JPY, like I said, we're paying an instrument where we're expecting fundamental and one we're not expecting any fundamental. So if you're looking at it on a 1 hour time frame, or let's look at it on a daily time frame actually, right? On a daily time frame, if you notice the trend, it's actually been more of a little bit of an uptrend, right? For the yeah, if you notice this, it's been a little bit of an uptrend for this particular instrument. Over time, I think the euro, though despite the fact that the euro is actually weak, but compared to the JPY, the euro has more leverage compared to the JPY. So, and I think that strength should actually still continue, though we are looking at a little bit of a retracement, right? We've been having a little bit of a retracement from the high point at which Euro JPY actually hits. We are looking at a retracement from this high point where Euro GPI actually hit, and it came all the way down. But I think we should have a progressive high from this point. And with the fact that we're expecting news on Euro, the sentiment on this now should actually push the market up, right? The sentiment on this should actually push the market up. But of course, like I said, there's a retracement. And if you're looking at it technically, you're seeing that price is currently at the resistance point, right? You could see that price is currently at the resistance point. So being that that's news will be coming out later on in the day, right? I would want to respect this fundamental, this technical chart layout, right? I want to look at the price technically. So if I'm going in for a quick trade this morning, right? If I'm going in for a quick trade, going on in 15 minutes, you could see this clear bounce off from this resistance. Though the general sentiment might be that Euro is actually going to buy in the long run, but for a short trade this morning, looking at it technically, I would want to go in for a sell. I'll pitch in my tent for a sell, and it will be a good time, especially for those that will be scalping. Those scalping on currencies is not very profitable, right? But if you're going to be scalping on currency, of course, you know that you're going to be hitting it with good lot size, right? You're going to be hitting it with good lot size, and you should be able to make something depending on when that fundamental will come out, and then the general sentiment actually now pushes up into a buy. So I'll key in for a sell. You could actually go in at instant, you could go in for an instant sell, and then all the way down to this point. So this would be my sell zone, the whole of this point here. I'd sell from here down to this support zone. So my support is somewhere around 149.089. So I'll sell from the current market price down to 149.089. I sell down here. So like I said, it's going to be a short trade depending on when the news actually comes out, right? A short sell depending on when the news actually comes out. So you could key into the sell this morning. And of course, once price gets to this support, like I told you, this is just a retracement. If you check it, price has actually been on a consistent high, right? So I feel this is just a little bit of a pullback, right? Looking at a little bit of a pullback, expecting price to actually shoot up from the support at this point. So I sell down to this point, even if you're looking at it on a 1 hour time frame. So you could actually see this long Marambozo at this point here. I expect at least the next hour, right? I still expect this candle to actually still come back down. And then from here, those that are entering now, you sell. And then from the point at which the news is actually going to come out, right? Once price is able to get towards my support zone here, once price actually hits my support or comes close to my support, then I'd now go in for the general direction. So bear it in mind that if you are going in for a sell, it's going to be a short trade, and you want to be out of that trade as soon as you actually make good profit from the market. That's why I suggest you use better lot sizes, because this is actually, that sell is actually going to be a very, very short trade, right? I suggest you use better lot sizes. Then if you're going to be taking the trade in a long run, like you're patient and you're going to be taking the trade in the long run, you would want to stick in for a buy, following the general direction of the market, right? So the buy would be from now till when the news actually comes out, because of course, whenever there is a news coming out, there is always positive sentiment surrounding that instrument. So of course, people are always optimistic that the data coming out or the statements coming out would actually be positive for that currency, unless it comes out and it is otherwise. But naturally, the sentiment is always positive for that particular currency. So I expect that once price is able to lay on my support here, then you could start going in for a general buy. So you could do a general buy as soon as price hits here, a general buy from here up all the way to here. So I'm going to be buying from, like I said, if you're going for an instant sell now, right, you would want to take your profit as soon as price hits this point here at 149.165, around that zone. You could take your profit around any point of that zone, and that point should also start your buy trade. So you should start taking your buy from that point up until the resistance at the top. So I'm looking at, if price comes all the way down, so I start taking my buy from this point here below. I start taking my buy from this point below. So I've given you two options. And I told you, if you're going in for a sell, it should be a short trade, a very, very short trade. So you're looking at good lot size, and then you're out of the market as soon as you make good profit, because this sell wouldn't last for long. And once it gets to this around this support zone, right, you can now start keying in for a buy, because the general sentiment is actually going to be a buy in the long run, depending on when the news comes out, and if it comes out and positive for the euro. If the statement is still in favor of the euro, then you might still see a further push up, right? So, and my benchmark for taking my profits for that longer trade will be at 150.017, 150.017, right? 150.017. So I'll be buying from the base here up until the resistance at the top. So why I'm doing that is because the best place for you to take your buy is at a low point, right? At a support zone. And of course, the best place to take your sell is at the resistance. So I take my buy from this support up all the way onto this resistance. I believe we are all clear on that, right? So that's on Euro USD. On Euro JPY, Euro JPY. That's on Euro JPY. So I'm not going to give a long-term trade. Like I said, I don't know. I was telling someone the other time that long-term trade these days, if you're going to be taking long-term trade, because of all the increase in interest rates and most of the major economy is actually going in for inflation at this particular point in time, holding a long-term trade can actually be very dicey, right? You hold a long-term trade, and then inflation is ravaging on this side, and then policies are being implemented on this side, and then you see most times you're getting a swing. You're getting most times a swing. So the likelihood of price actually going in one direction for a very, very long time is slim at this point in time, except when the US is actually going to, or so most of these major economies are actually going to be able to find how will I put it, a permanent resolve to their inflation crisis at the moment, right? So let's go in for GBP. We've looked at one pair for Euro JPY. Let's look at the GBP pair. So I'm going to be looking at GBP JPY also. I'm going to be looking at GBP JPY also. So same thing on GBP JPY. And I think the major thing that is actually giving JPY a boost against the this thing is just because we just came out of the Asian session, right? We just came out of the Asian session going into the London session. So of course, during the Asian session, you expect that instrument like JPY should actually have a boost, because that's their trading hour, right? And that should actually still support price, pushing it down to this support zone if you're looking at it technically. So on GBP JPY, you have the same thing where price is actually hitting off a resistance, and this is a triple top, not more than a triple top though. So you have resistance 1, resistance 2, resistance 3, and this is another resistance at the top here, resistance 4. So most likely price is actually going to come all the way down to this support here. So most likely price is actually going to come down to this support here. So I expect that from now till when the news will come out on GBP, I expect price should actually range in this region, right? So I expect price should actually range from this region. But of course, because the news is coming out on GBP and not JPY, I expect a general buy trend on this market, right? I expect a general buy trend on this market. So, and you can see also GBP JPY is another instrument that has been making progressive high. So what's to stop it from also creating another progressive high on a day where it is expecting a high impact news? I don't think anything is stopping it from making another new high, right? On a day like this where it is expecting another high impact news, right? So you could see the progression, right? You could see progression. So what I'm going to be doing this morning, like I said, for those we already missed out on this sell. For those that will have just keyed into a quick sell, those that would scalp the market for a quick sell, we already missed it. Going to a 15 minutes time frame, you see we already missed that sell by an inch. So I wouldn't advise you still trying to risk your neck out for a sell, right, on this particular instrument. Though you might look that yeah, there's still a good distance from here to the support zone, but it's a good trade technically, but if you're looking at it from your money management aspect, you know that it's not really worth it, because how much will I, and don't forget it's currency pair, right? How much will I be making from year to year that will make me want to risk it all, right? How much will I be making from year to year that will make me want to risk it all? So rather than do that, I'd wait for price to actually come into this zone. So as soon as, because you could see that this year is also serving more of a weak support for price, and you could see that price is actually struggling at that point here, because here was currently a resistance, which is now a support. So it's more like a turncoat. It's now a turncoat resistance for price, a resistance that's now a support zone, and you can see price is actually buying from that point. So I would want to do this. I would, rather than going for a sell, I'll go in for a buy on GBP JPY. I'll go in for a strong buy on GBP JPY. Like I said, the sentiment is positive, going to be positive for the GBP, and we are not expecting any news on JPY. So I'm going for an instant sell, right? Or even if price breaks into this region here, even if price breaks below this point and still comes in, as much as it doesn't break below your second support at this bottom here, you could still go in for a sell in between this region. So from around 172.162, from around 172.162 to around 171.915. If price fall in between that zone, you can still go in for a sell. And in as much as price is above that, for a buy rather, sorry, for a buy, I stand corrected, for a buy. So in as much as price comes below this point, you can still go in for a buy. And in as much as it doesn't break this point, your buy is still valid, right? Despite the fact that price is selling now. So going for a sell now wouldn't be a smart thing to do, because you're looking at it, how much will I be making if I'm taking a sell from here down to this support zone? It wouldn't be much compared to what you'll be making if you go in for a buy at around here, and then you're looking at taking your profit at the top here, right? You discover that you have more profit potential if you're doing this. If you're taking a buy at around there, or even if you're taking an instant buy now to up or to this resistance, you discover that you're going to be making more in profits. So most likely, because it's a fundamental news and it's a speech, you most likely would want to leave your take profit open. You could just put your stop loss at this second support here. If you're going in for a buy now, you could leave your stop loss at around 171.915, 171.195. You could put your stop loss at around that point there, right? And then you could just ride your buy. You could leave your take profit open to increase your profit margin, but you know that will require you to actually sit with your trade and monitor it. Of course, a good lot size, because this is currency pair, so a good lot size would also give you better leverage as to how much you'll be making from this particular trade. So that's it for GBP JPY. Let's also pair GBP with another instrument where we are not expecting a high impact news, right? Let's look at GBP CAD. Of course, GBP CAD. GBP CAD is also another instrument that is having, if you're looking at it, let's shrink this chart a little. This is CAD on its own is an instrument that I've been analyzing CAD for a while. So that's why you have a whole lot of horizontal and trend line on it. So I've been following up on CAD for a while. And CAD on its own is also an instrument that it's a strong economy actually, because CAD is a petrochemical currency, and of course the influence of oil also used to give CAD a boost. Influence of oil also used to give CAD a boost. So if you notice, CAD JPY has actually been on a downtrend, right? On a downtrend, and I believe because of the sentiment, I think due to the sentiment that was actually to come out on GBP, that actually gave this instrument more of a double bottom. If you notice, you have a double bottom here, where you have, it's even more than a double bottom though, but let's just say a double bottom, because you have this here, this rejection at the support here, and then price went up all the way to this point and came back down to form another bottom here, right? So, and you could see from this point here, it has been a progressive high, and price has gone up to hit this resistance point. So most likely, because of the fundamental coming out, I expect that price should actually should actually break this resistance point, right? Because of the fundamental coming out. But from now to when the fundamental is going to be coming out, I would want to still pitch in for a little bit, because price would actually retrace to gain momentum to actually break that resistance. So if you're going to be scalping, you're going to be scalping the retracement of price. You get. So if you're going to be scalping on this particular instrument, you're going to be scalping the retracement of price. But when it comes to scalping, they are short burst trade. Scalping are short burst trade. You're not looking at staying for that trade for a long time, right? You're not looking at you're not looking at staying on that trade for a long time, right? So since you're not looking at staying on that market for a very long time, you're going to be doing this, right? You're going to be entering a short sell from here down to this support zone here, right? You're looking at a short sell from here down to this support, but the general direction is actually going to be a buy. That's why you need to be careful, right? So it's two ways. I tell people, if you might not be able to follow in, because not a lot of persons are actually strong when it comes to scalping the markets, right? Not a lot of persons have that quick reflex when it comes to scalping the market. So if you know you might not be able to enter a short burst trade and close your profit in time, it's best for you to just wait, right? It's best for you to just wait, and then you're going for a buy instead. So I'll be going in for a buy at around this zone here. I'll be going in for a buy at around this zone. I expect that price should actually break. So let me zoom in so we get okay, that's too much. All right, so this is perfect. So I'd want to go in for a buy at around here. So like I said, if price, I'm still expecting that price should actually come back down to test my trend line, right? Price should actually come back down to test my trend line on my support zone here. So that's why I said you could go in for a short burst sell trade. But if you can't do that, wait for price to actually come to the base here, let it rest at the base, and then you start taking your buy from the bottom here, right? You wait for price to come to the bottom here, to the base, which is my support zone here, before you go in for a buy. I'm taking out this trend line so you could see what I'm talking about clearly. So this is my resistance where price is actually supported, resisted, and because price is resisted at that point, and it's a very, very viable resistance point. So you could see that rejection. So like I said, if you're going in for a sell, looking at it technically, it's going to be a short burst trade down to this point, right? It's going to be a short burst trade down to this point. That's if you're going to be scalping down to this point, you can scalp the market down to this point. But if you're following the general direction of the market, right, you want to play the long game, what you would want to do is wait for price to actually come all the way down here. So that down here I'm talking about is at price level 1.67697, right? So at around this point, right, at around that point, so 1.67697 at around this point. So if price comes all the way down to this point, I'd want to now key in into a buyer up all the way onto this point. So, and even if price comes below that point, of course, there's still another support zone at around here. There's still another support zone at around this point here. So even if you're taking your buy from price level 1.67697 to price level 1.67490, if you're taking a buy in between this region all the way up. So this is what I'm expecting. I'm expecting price to come down and from here give a shoot up, right? So this would be, if you notice, and like I said, even if it comes all the way down to this point here, I'm just giving a track as to how I expect the price to actually move, right? How I expect the price to actually move. So I expect price to actually do a V, just like it did here. Price came all the way down and then push back up. So I expect price to actually come down, and then from here, so anything from this base, even if it comes into this place, you could still take in a buy, expecting price to shoot up. So what that will imply is that what you'll be making in profit, if I'm taking my buy from here, because it's a longer trade, I'm going to be making about 92 pips in profit compared to what I'll be targeting on a sell. So if I'm going in for a sell, let's say I'm going in at a current market price, also calculating spread, this would be about 32 pip in profit, right? So you'd be making more money on a buy, right, if you're going in for a long-term trade. But like I said, if you're scalping, of course, if you're scalping with reasonable lot size, and that should still give you a good amount of money on the sell trade. So that being said, let's look at we had GBP. We've looked at €2. We've looked at €1. We've looked at 2 GBP. Let's look at USD. Let's look at USD. So let's look at USD IDX, right? The dollar index. Let's look at the dollar index. Okay. So let's look at the dollar index. So for the dollar index, we've been having consistent high on the dollar index, and that's because if you've been following the news recently, you know that Joe Biden is actually trying to increase the debt ceiling. So quick light on the debt ceiling. The debt ceiling has to do with amount of money that the US can actually borrow, right? Currently, I think they are on, is it 31.2 trillion, right? That's the debt cap for the US now, but Biden's administration is actually moving to increase that number as to the amount of money they can actually borrow. So if there is a further increase in that in their debt ceiling, of course, that should also still give more boosts to the dollar. And there's still talks going on as that last week Friday. I think policymaker actually shut down that idea, but yes, on Monday they resumed the new talks on it. So sentiment around it has just been dragging the dollar up, and of course we had some news that actually came out positive for the dollar late last week. And yes, late last week we had some positive sentiment news around the dollar, and that actually gave the dollar a boost against other currency, right? So, and I think this progressive high might most likely continue. This progressive high might most likely continue if that talk is still giving a chance to play out, right? If the debt ceiling talk is still giving a chance to play out this. But looking at it technically, you expect that price has actually hit a resistance point, and even if it is going to go above this resistance point, it should still struggle at that resistance a bit, right? Even if, and because it's a more of a verified resistance, because price has been rejected there about twice, right? So if not even twice, because I know if we go backward, we'll still find another point at which price has been rejected at that point again. So it's a verified resistance at the top here. So even if there's going to be anything breaking this resistance, I still expect price to struggle at that point a bit. And you could also use your trend line to track the progression, right? You could use your trend line to track the progression. It bounces off the trend line, come back down to test that trend line again, then bounces off and then come back down to test that trend line again. So now it has actually pushed up that trend line. I still expect it to support the resistance at the top and then bounce back down to my trend line before making another high, right? Before making another progression high. So what I'm going to be doing on this instrument is I'd most likely would want to sell, right? Despite the fact that we have a news coming out, though we have that news coming out later in the day, right? So that news later in the day, there's still enough room for the markets to play its thing before. Let's look at that. Okay, so that news is actually going to be coming by 3:05, and medium impact news, the Yellen's speech will be coming out by 3:05, and then the FOMC minutes will be coming out by 7 p.m. So there's still enough room for us to actually play around the market a bit, right? So I'm not expecting a lot of volatility this morning on the dollar, right? I'm not expecting a whole lot of volatility on the dollar, but there's still a little bit of room for you to play around with your sell, right? Depending on when that news comes out. Depending on when that news comes out. So if the news comes out positive, of course, we should see another progressive high on this particular instrument. So, but for this morning, is most likely you'd want to go in for a sell, right? Most likely you'd want to go in for a sell. So this, I'm going to be calculating just how many pip in stop loss. So I wouldn't want to risk so much on this trade. So I'd say let's say 20 pip. Let's just give it 20 pip. Depending on the lot size, though, you could actually do 1:5, right? 1:10, right? Depending on your capital, right? But in this scenario, I'm going to be doing 2:10, right? I'm going to be doing 2:10, right? 2:10. So what I'm going to be looking out for is 20 pip in 20 pip in stop loss. Where's my crosshair? Okay, so I'm going to be looking at 20 pip in stop loss. This is 19, this is 20, yeah, roughly about 20. So this is 20 pip in stop loss. So anything around here is going to serve as my stop loss. Should price break above this point, I'd want to fix my stop loss anywhere around here, right? But my take profit, I'm going to leave it opened because I expect that since price is actually going to hit this point, hit this resistance point here, it should give it enough boost to break below my trend line a little bit down to the next support zone here. Perfect. So what I'm going to be targeting in profit, is this. So I'm going to be targeting about 70 pips in profit, about 72 pips in profit, right? I'll be targeting about 72 pips in profit. So my stop loss will be anywhere around here, and then targeting about 72 pip in profit, right? So that's for this morning. It's just to play your way around the market for this morning, so you have something tangible before the news comes out. But I still expect that when that news comes out, it should be another progressive high. But if Yellen comes out and doesn't really say anything meaningful, of course, I expect that this technical or this more of a reversal pattern should actually now play a role as pushing the dollar index down. You get? So if Yellen and then the FOMC minute doesn't really come out hawkish, if it's not very, very insightful, or if it doesn't give a clear direction as to where the economy is actually going to, then this reversal pattern that has been formed at the top of the chart here would actually play, it would actually now play its part, pushing USD IDX down. So that's my analysis on USD IDX. So let's look at one last dollar pair and then an index, and then we'll call it a day, right? So, okay, we still have about 8 minutes to 9 before. Okay, I think people are requesting for gold. People are requesting for gold. All right. So let's look at gold. Then we'll look at let's look at gold. Where is my gold chart? Okay, this is silver. Okay. So I'm going to be doing one thing. I'm going to give us gold, and we are also going to be looking at its close brother, which is silver. So those two instruments would round up my class for the day, right? Silver and gold. A lot of persons have never traded silver before. It's one beautiful instrument. It's also a reserved currency too, right? A reserved instrument too, right? Just like gold, right? Just like gold, which is more of a reserve instrument, where if the dollar is not doing so well, a lot of people push their money into gold. It also happens in silver. It plays a little bit of the same role in silver also, only that gold is just more preferred to silver, right? So looking at gold has actually been riding on the wave of the dollar. The dollar has been gaining strength, gold had been losing strength, and you could see that downfall on gold, right? You could see that downfall on gold, right? So some of these major spikes were some days where the dollar actually didn't do well. Like this spike came as a result of the news that came out around the on the 19th, where it came out negative for the dollar. And I think that news was if I can remember, I know I followed that news. I can't really remember what news it was though, but it actually came out negative for the dollar, and that gave gold a boost. And also, don't forget, gold on its own is also an instrument that has its own demand and supply, right? So it also has its own demand and supply, because a lot of persons have this notion of dollar to gold correlation. Yes, the dollar to gold correlation is a thing, but it's most likely a 90% thing, because there are times where you have gold move up and also you have the dollar also pushing up. So it might be as a result of the fact that there is a high demand of gold, and also the US economy is also doing well. High demand of gold can be as a result of the fact that maybe okay, if you check times where China will be having their festival, on months like that, you have high demand for gold, because their festivals is their culture goes around beautification of women and all of that. And then most times around this time, you have high demand for gold, for jewelries and the likes. So, and especially when you have luxury brands or jewelry producing brands actually making wave, and they are getting high demand for gold, high mining, those times you have push up in prices, right? So those are some things that affect gold, in addition to the dollar, also in addition to the fact that gold is a reserve instrument for the dollar, right? So looking at gold this morning, gold has actually made more of it has actually hit a resistance point, and if we had keyed into it about an hour ago, of course we would have been going in for a clear sell, right? I still expect that this sell should still continue because that news is coming out later on in the day. So there's still every possibility that gold would still push down a little. Right, there's still, let me take out some of these lines so that we could just focus on what we need to see. All right, so if, like I said, if we had keyed into this trade from the last hour where price actually kicked off these resistance points, am I dragging out? Okay. I actually put a sell limit at the top there, but unfortunately price did not trigger my sell limit, so I might need to drag my sell limits back down, right? So price has actually been resisted at this point. Yeah, it didn't get to, like I tell people, support and resistance is a zone, it's not just a line. So I put my sell limit on this, or just at the top here, and you could see that price didn't actually trigger it. So price got around that zone there and it started coming back down. So would you say price has actually hit that resistance? The answer is yes, price has actually hit that resistance, because support and resistance is not just a line, it's a zone. So in as much as it has come close to that zone, it has actually done its effect. That resistance point has actually done its effect on price. So I'll still look at, because this is a long Marambozo, and most times when you see Marambozos like this, it's a, aside from the fact that it's a Marambozo, this is a clear bearish engulfing, when you're looking at bearish engulfing, looking at Japanese candlestick formation. Now let's zoom in. A bearish engulfing is a bearish candle totally encompassing the previous 2 or 3 bullish candle that was formed, and in as much as it is at a resistance point, it's a clear indication for a sell trade, right? In as much as it is at a resistance point, it is a clear indication for a sell trade. So this is my bearish engulfing. So normally I say wait for a confirmation, wait for a bearish confirmation before you jump into the trade, but most likely with the way it is now, it's going to be a good buy, right? At least down to this support zone. It's going to be a good sell, rather, sorry, I stand corrected, a good sell down to the support zone and down to my trend line. Also, you could see my trend line here. So down to my trend line, I'm going to be going for a sell on this particular instrument, down to, or let's say, let's bring this up, also considering my trend line. Let's bring it to somewhere around there. So down to somewhere around 1959 points, 1959.76, 1959.76, right? 1959.76. So I'm going to be looking in for a sell, right? I'm going to be looking in for a sell on gold, depending on when the news comes out later on in the day. And then, of course, my stop loss would be, if this is how many people in take profit. So if I'm going in for a sell from the current market price, let's say I'm going in from the current market price, or even if price shoots up towards this resistance point, right, you could still go in for a sell. It's only when price actually breaks above this resistance, then you know that that sell is no longer in order. So even if I'm targeting about this is about 194 people. This is about 194 people on gold, and that's quite a lot, right? This is about 109 something people on gold. That's quite a lot. So my stop loss will be around, of course, you want to cut out your loss should price break above 192 1982.80. So 1982.80. If price breaks above that point, just cut out your losses and move on, right? You just cut out your losses and move on. So that's it for gold, right? The last instrument is going to be silver before we call it a day. I think the same thing also played out on silver. Silver and gold also used to have some close chart correlation, right? So if you're looking at silver too, the same thing actually played out. you're expecting that price actually bounced off a resistance at the top here, right? And it's currently heading down to this support. So most likely what you're just doing, you have your bearish engulfing, your bearish engulfing, which has actually covered up the past three candles. I still expect that price should actually still push down on gold. So, but if you're taking a trade on silver, you also need to be very wary of your lot size, right? You also need to be very wary of your lot size, right? So use reasonable lot size in comparison to what you have in your account, right? In comparison to what you have in your account, use a reasonable lot size. You could test try. If you've never traded this instrument before, you could give it a trial. It's also a very good instrument that you should look out for, right? So I'm looking out for more of a sell on gold, depending on when the FOMC comes out in the evening. So I'm selling down to this support zone, which is somewhat around 23.077, 23.077. So I'm selling all the way down there. So my stop loss should be around 23.526 520. Sorry, so 23.520. So I put my stop loss somewhere around there, right? So my preference on silver is also a sell. So that being said, I think we've come to all the instruments for the day. I wouldn't be able to look at more instruments. So of course, the whole essence of this money market review is not just to spoon feed you on trade signals and all. The whole reason why I take out time to ensure that you follow through. I draw those lines because I could easily just come in here and say buy gold, buy this, buy that. You understand? But I take out my time to draw this trend line right in front of you is because I want you to understand how these things work, and so that as time goes on, this knowledge rubs off on you. So if you're going to be taking a decision in the market, you should know that, okay, this decision, I'm taking it as a result of the fact that this happened and that happened, and this is most likely going to be your outcome, right? As a trader, don't be scared to take risks. Of course, in as much as you have your stop loss and you're using reasonable lot size in comparison to what you have as your capital, you should be fine in this market. And of course, if you want to really make money in this market, you need to put in good capital. Good capital will amount to better profits when it comes to making profits in this market. So it's easier for you to make 50,000 naira daily on a 1 million naira account than make 50,000 naira daily on a 50,000 naira account. It's just critical thinking. You understand? So it's very nice hosting you guys. Until we meet again, do have a wonderful day.